cannot stop the fight for human rights in Iran, and the rain cannot stop us from standing in solidarity with the people who are fighting for human rights in Iran. I just have one very simple message that I wanted to send out to the President of Iran, and that is to say that we are not gathered here tonight to interfere in the internal affairs of Iran. We're gathered here tonight because what is happening to the courageous people who are fighting for human rights in Iran is our affair. It's our affair. It's the affair of every human being on the planet who cares about human rights. We are going to stand in solidarity with those people now and for as long as it takes for them to win the fight for freedom and dignity and human rights. And our solidarity is not going to be stopped by tired old words about sovereignty that are used by every oppressive government around the world. We know that the authorities are trying to discredit international support for the fighters of human rights in Iran, and even more, they're trying to discredit the people who are fighting for human rights in Iran. And we want to be very clear. Those people are not following us. We are following them. We are supporting their leadership. We heard for a long time in this country how Iran was part of the axis of evil. But today and every day for the past weeks, we've seen that Iran is part of the axis for the fight for human rights. The people in Iran are leading that fight, and they're inspiring people all over the world. And they have inspired us to come out tonight, and they will inspire us to keep taking action on their behalf. The authorities are trying to keep information about what is going on from all of us, but they have failed. That horrific, chilling, shocking video of the young woman who was killed in Iran, they couldn't stop that from getting out. They can't stop the blogs, they can't stop the website, they can't stop the information. We know that hundreds and hundreds of people have been arrested. We know that hundreds of people are in danger and at risk of being tortured. We know that scores of people have been killed. And we are going to stand with those people until that situation changes. So I want to thank each of you. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We need your the demand of the Iranian government that they obey their commitments on human rights, and the most of all, that they listen to the courageous voices of their own people. That's what we're asking for. Thank you very much.
What do we want? Freedom! What do we want? Now! Oh, here's our next speaker, Chris Hedges.
Thank you very much. I was the Middle East Bureau Chief for the New York Times. I spent 7 years in the Middle East, many months of my life. Speak up! Speak up, please! And,
hello.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? Is that good? Yeah. Okay. I'm Chris Hedges. I'm the Middle East Bureau Chief for the New York Times and spent many months of that time in Iran. I think that there are two things that I want to stress today. One is that, of course, we have to stand in solidarity with those people who are fighting and have been fighting for democracy and liberty. This is something that we have seen throughout Iranian history going all the way back to 1906 when Iranians agitated for an elected parliament. It is something that we saw again in 1953 with Mossadegh, and then of course the U.S. orchestrated coup that toppled the first democratically elected leader in Iran. Iran had a democracy. It was the United States that took it away from Iran. Iranians are very aware of that. And then of course in the 70s when Iranian Iranians mobilized against the Shah, ending with the return of Ayatollah Khomeini. And I think what most people don't understand in 1979 is that there were a variety of revolutionary groups which were crushed with the Iraqi war against Iran, a war which we provided material support and intelligence to help Saddam Hussein wage. Our role in the United States has been, throughout most of the 20th century, to stand not on the side of the movements of democracy, but on the side of repressive forces and foreign intervention. And I hope that we can begin to change that now. And that means not only withdrawal from Iraq and Afghanistan, which are illegal wars of aggression under post-Nuremberg laws, but also an end to covert operations which existed under the Bush administration and still exist, carrying out targeted assassinations, bombings, and acts of terrorism inside Iran. These kinds of activities only solidify the Ahmadinejads of the world. It only gives an excuse and a pretext in the name of national security for state repression. And too long, we in the United States have failed to stand with those movements and peoples in Iran, and I think that we, in our own society, can begin to call, one, for non-intervention, which will strengthen these democratic forces. This is certainly the beginning of the end of the 30-year reign of the clerics. How long it will take, I don't know. Sometimes these movements take years, but these fissures and cracks are real, significant, and I think that we have to be in it for the long haul. These forces that are in the streets of Iran and will continue to agitate, no doubt, perhaps in all sorts of ways that are must be clandestine and underground. Remember, this was very much a part of Iranian history in the 1970s, require our ongoing commitment and must be coupled with a kind of commitment to our own government to not to give the forces of repression an excuse by which they can crush the very real democratic aspirations that have long been part of Iranian history and part of Iranian culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for coming. Our next speaker is former Congresswoman Elizabeth Holtzman. Congresswoman, please come.
Can't say thank you. We want to say, from all of us here, from the people of the United States and from everyone who respects and cherishes liberty and freedom and human dignity, we want to say thank you to the brave people of Iran who stood up for a very simple thing, human justice. We're here because we're inspired by them. We're awestruck in the face of what has happened, 30 years of brutality. They stood up. They weren't to be counted. They wouldn't give up. And we stand here not only because we're inspired and exhilarated, but because we're here to mourn. Mourn the brutality. Mourn the deaths of the protesters. Mourn the arrests. Mourn the torture. Mourn the effort to destroy that spark of human dignity. I was in Albany, Georgia in 1963 when they used cattle prods and they used police dogs and they used the sheriffs and they arrested people and they beat them because they wanted to vote. And guess what? They lost. Martin Luther King said in 1963,